Part two, family.
We're ready.
5, 4.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hope you didn't miss me too long. Again, you are listening to Confessions with Brian T. Bethea on WJHM 102 Jams and 102jams.com. Forgive me, got to make sure we get that right. Again, just want to make sure, download the app if you have an Android. Download the app. You have to type it in exactly how I say it, WJHM102jams.com if you have an Android. Again, Apple phone users, iPhone users, I'm sorry, you have to go through your browser. Speak to your phone company about that. But anyway, we are back with Pastor Jerry Q. Parries, of course, the author and of The Making of a Blended Family. Go ahead and pick that up right now, please, right now. And also the pastor of Christian Family Worship Center. Again, when we left you off with the, we were going to talk about disciplining of the children. Particularly physical discipline of the children when it comes to a blended family. Now, I know that's on a hot topic, and some people are just like, no, and the bonus parent is not allowed to touch my child and anything of that nature. But how do you think is the best way to handle discipline when it comes to a blended family?
Wow, this is probably one of the most crucial parts of a blended family is when the child needs to be disciplined. Who should do the discipline in a blended family? My experience, my everything that I know, the discipline should be given by the biological parent. The bonus parent can re-emphasize and support, but the actual discipline should come from the biological parent. Here's a couple examples, because this is really huge and important. Let's say, for instance, if the dishes have to be washed, mm-hmm. and you're the biological parent, and you already have some tension in the house,
right.
Okay? When you go to that child who is not your biological daughter or son, and you say to them, go in there and wash the dishes, what is that child going to say to you? What's the famous line? You are not my mother. You are not my father. Yeah. Now, what do you have to do? You now have to respond to that, which will escalate into something. I talk about in the book, when you respond to that and you put your hands on another man's child who don't like you anyway, you've just invited. This is all they've been waiting on. How dare you touch my child?
Right.
So that's the reason why it can go in so many different bad directions. So what happens is the biological parent says, even if they're work, hey, at 8 o'clock, I want you to wash the dishes. Now the bonus parent can say these magical words, didn't your mother say, wash the dishes?
Right.
Now the directive did not come from you. It came from the biological parent. And when it comes from the biological parent, then the child is apt to do it because they can't argue with their biological mother or father. But whenever you, as a parent, says to them, do something, then that's where the problem comes in. Now, if you're raising this child since the day it was born,
mm-hmm.
that's a little different. I'm talking about depending on what the ages are.
Right.
You're coming into somebody's life when they're 7, 8, 9, teenager.
That's a little tough.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah. So, and I did not follow that rule. This is how I learned that rule. I did not follow that rule. I actually disciplined my biological daughter, and her father, who was much bigger than me, had a lot more muscles than me, was on his way to New Orleans to confront me. And I realized from that particular incident that I handled it the wrong way. And it put a wedge in me and my daughter's relationship for many years. And so you cannot touch, or you should not touch, my advice as a counselor and as a pastor is that you should not put your hands on someone else's child. If the child does something, then you got to go to the biological parent. You all discuss it out of their presence, and then you all come back with the united front of what the discipline would be, taking away the phone or taking away the PlayStation, whatever that is. But that directive and order should come from the biological parent.
Now, I'm glad you said that and explained it that way. Now, I do have another question, because I know there are certain instances where the one or maybe both of the biological parents give the okay for the bonus parent to discipline, give physical discipline, a spanking for lack of a better, or whooping in our terms. Do you still feel it's okay in that regard if the biological parents say it's okay for you to whip my child?
No, 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 and no again. Here's why. When you're trying to win over your family, your blended family, your bonus children have given you rented space in their heart. Rented space. You don't have ownership. They rented you some space. When you treat them or discipline them, they will evict you out of their heart, even though they have to respect you. I never forget my daughter who said to her mother when I disciplined her, she looked at her mother, and it was a knife to my heart. She looked at my mother and said, "You chose him, not me. That's not who I wanted in my life. That's who you wanted in your life." And from that moment, I was evicted from my daughter's heart. And guess when I was evicted from my daughter's heart, then I also lost a little of my wife's heart, because you cannot not love someone's children or child and expect them to maintain love for you. So it's just a bad thing to do. It can go so many different ways. So why not just allow the biological parent to handle it, and you step in and support the biological parent so that you can continue to remain an owner in that child's heart. You don't want to be evicted out of the heart. It destroys the blended family. And most people, you can't come with this syndrome. I'm the man of the house, and what I say go. That does not work very well in a blended family. Again, they can't go anywhere. They're children, but they will evict you out of their heart. And when they get older, you will not have the kind of relationship that you desire to have with them.
Okay. Now, in regards for people,
my opinion, I wanted to throw that in there. My opinion.
Now, in regards for, let's say, like for those people who already gone through or currently already going through that situation right now, how were you able to enter back into her heart as her, like another her father figure, and how long did that take you? Wow,
she actually writes the foreword in my book, and in the foreword in my book, it says suddenly in. I got to read this. It's only a paragraph. It's only a paragraph, but this is worth reading. It said, suddenly in the summer of 1993, we were a blended family. Jerry Q. Parries moved in, and Jason and Justin were coming up for the summer. We had just left my childhood home and moved into a 3-bedroom apartment in another city. Away from my friends' parents, we were getting a divorce, and bam, now I have 2 brothers and a new dad. Forming that into a sentence today pretty much sums up my attitude about the whole thing. I was angry, confused, and shocked, and I showed it towards my new family. I spent about 7 years being mean and hateful, 7 years of being disrespectful. But despite all of that, you always loved me. You were always kind, and still took my hateful self on vacation. This blended family wasn't by far easy, and it took over 10 years for me to claim you as my father and to love you as such. Wow. It takes a lot of patience, time, and love to win back a child whose heart you have broken.
Now, in regards for that,
and you need to be able to, and you need to do the work.
Absolutely,
you need to do the work. You need to do the work. Do not look at a child and say, "Oh, that's a child. You do what you got." You need to do the work. They deserve the work. that because you have invaded their lives,
Right.
and they deserve the work.
And was that just as long to repair the relationship you had with her father as well after that particular incident?
No, it didn't take as long to uh, repair that, because in the instance of that, his family came to my rescue because the incident, they felt at that moment that my daughter might not have been in the right in this particular
Right.
instance.
Right.
And so his mother and his sisters all rallied around and made it a little bit, hey, let's look at this. This was out of line kind of thing. But I learned from it. In fact, that his mother even now calls me one of her sons, and his sisters treat me as a brother. But it took work. It took a lot of work, and a lot of work on all of our parts. So I can't say that I'm the angel.
Right.
That it was his love for his children to make sure that he showed peace towards me as well.
Wow, I mean that is a tough situation. I know some of y'all listening or maybe watching right now can probably saying like, that is not possible, not in my situation or what have you. I've had this conversation before with other people, and in terms of making sure that both sides of the family, all sides of the family, kind of get along. And to a lot of people, it looks like that's not possible. In that regard. So they may look at your situation and think like, oh, that's an anomaly. That never, that stuff never happens, or whatever. But that's why I want to say you definitely got to get the book,
Yeah.
to find out.
It happens, but it happens with a lot of forgiveness. You have to have a lot of forgiveness. You have to have a lot of love, and it takes, for me. By the way, that my children's father is not I would say a practicing Christian.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be able to love people beyond where they are, and that, I think that was the force behind what changed it for us.
Yeah, absolutely, and so much so, it's just a wonderful thing that that she was able to at least recognize that, and was first of all, how does she come to write the foreword to the book, and how did that all come together?
I just asked. I think I asked her and all of my children to. I think she was the only one that stepped up to the plate to do it. And just, I tell you what really changed it. She had a baby at, early in her college years,
Mm-hmm.
and me and her son just kind of bonded. And I really think the way that she saw that I loved her son made her endear to me.
Gotcha.
You know him.
Yeah.
That's my boy, and he's older now, and he's hard headed like all the rest of the children. But when he was a baby, I used to call him Boodle Woodles. That was my guy, and she saw the love that I had for him, and I think it endeared her heart to me.
All right. Well, you hear it there. We'll be right back on WJHM102jams.com on the radio. All right. We'll be back, y'all, in just 1 second. Peace. I'm getting better
Listen,
at this.
he's
ain't
getting
I?
good.
I'm getting better at it.
Get the book, Blended Family, the making of a blended family.
On the radio. All right. We'll be back, y'all, in just 1 second. Peace.
May it bless you.
Over 40 years, Lighthouse,
Yeah.
Central Florida.
Boom. Get that book right there. For those of y'all that are still watching online, I know exactly what it says. We'll be right back. I'm not actually online like on the radio, but for those of y'all watching,
0810.
get into, of course, how do you deal with blended families from different races and different cultures? That's a whole nother thing. Now, remember, race and culture are not the same thing. Race and culture are two different things. You know what I'm saying? So even if, specifically if you have two white parents together or what have you, you can still be of different cultures. Italian culture is different from Greek culture, specifically.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that. Haitian culture is much different from Jamaican culture. So we got to definitely get into that and how you deal with family traditions in terms of different cultures and things of that nature in that regard.
You got a pretty good accent there.
I do my best, man. I do my best. I got family I have yet to meet from the Caribbean, and hopefully we'll be able to find out who they are one day.
Amen.
Hopefully, if my father doesn't mind.
Amen.
This is 14 to 15 minutes
Mm-hmm.
in that range.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel you need to cut short, go ahead. That's okay. You got that body.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, we could talk about this all day.
I know. I think you should do first. Show us 3 and 4 and knock them out and have yourself done for a while.
Mm.
Okay. So you've got 14 to 15 minutes.
Mhm.
You?
Yeah, that's good.
This is section 2 out of 3.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You ready?
I'm ready.
In 5, 4.
Welcome back, y'all. Again, you are listening and or watching to WJHM102jams.com. Of course, this is Confessions with Brian T. Bethea. Again, we're back with my special guest, Pastor Jerry Q. Parries. Of course, again, the author of The Making of a Blended Family and pastor of Christian Family Worship Center. And again, we are glad to have him back. And we just got through with the topic. We're just finishing up the topic of disciplining the children and stuff like that when it comes to the making of a blended family. One thing I definitely wanted to get with in terms of family events and gatherings, like how do you decide where do you go for Christmas, where are you going for Thanksgiving, and all of that?
Well, it's not only family gatherings for Christmas, Thanksgiving, but it's graduations.
Mhm.
It's whatever the event may be. One of the things that I did when I had my blended family when they were younger, my son was playing hockey, and his dad again was very close to his family, and so he would come over, and we started off where he would be sitting on one side of the ring and we would be sitting on the other side of the ring. But when the child finished playing hockey, he wanted his mother and father to congratulate him, you know. So what I ended up doing is I bought a video camera, and I start videoing to be a part of the event, but kind of having a stand back and allowing the child the opportunity to shine in front of his mother and father. And so when our kids had graduations and they had those different particular things, I would be the videographer, and I would allow the mother and father to be the people that was up close. Now, when it comes down to Thanksgiving, and I talked about this in the last show, Christmas, you know, their father came over to open up Christmas gifts with with his children because they were very young. They were 5 and 6 or 7, you know, and so he would open up Christmas gifts with them, and so that was wonderful. And then we started having our own traditions and different things that we start doing within ourselves. And then, of course, we moved to New Orleans, and so the kids would spend Christmas with their father in Cleveland or spend Thanksgiving. And so we end up splitting the kids because we became in 2 different cities, which made it a little bit easier that we were not in the same city.
Okay. Now, I know and sometimes you have issues where, like I know, like for me specifically, you know, I'm split between, you know, where sometimes where I might feel like, well, we got this family function here, and then maybe this family function here. Now, in terms of, is there like a schedule that you learn how to work out specifically in regards to that? Like when it comes to like family functions, not just Christmas or Thanksgiving, but maybe like family dinners, you know, is it okay, let's say like for instance, if you know, one of your sons, if maybe like, you know, if his ex-wife or what have you was still very, very close with the family, is it okay for like her to come around? And, you know, if that was like, you know, if they had a common child specifically together, is that okay for them?
Yeah,
as well?
in our family, if you are part of our family, you are part of our family. So, especially if you have a child. So, for an example, of course, you know that we experience this, that a child is born and that those parents divorce, and then another person come into that life, then the biological parents are welcome in our home to be a part of their son's life, dinner, and all of the above.
Right.
Because again, here's the thing about this. When you look at children do not deserve the drama that we have with our own insecurities to say, I'm not coming if he's coming over, or I'm not coming if she's coming over. That's your insecurities. The children did not ask for that. You brought them into the world. The person that you brought them into the world. Now, I'm not talking about somebody, by the way, that's abusive and, you know,
Right.
crazy, you know,
Right.
crazy and abusive. They don't need to be around you at all. But I'm talking about somebody who loves this child, but you guys didn't get along together. The child should not be punished for the fact that your new boyfriend or new girlfriend is insecure. That might be a bad sign that may not be the person that you need to be with.
Right.
So we open up the door for people to come and spend time with the blended family, because that's what we are. We are a blended family. And I use the analogy of this. Let's say, for instance, you marry a young lady and she doesn't want you to go, and I write about this in the book. She doesn't want you to go visit your child. And so you end up having a child with her, and something happens to that relationship. Is it fair for the new woman that you get to say to her, I don't want you go visiting your child? How would she feel about that?
Right.
And if you agree to that, to not visit your son because of a woman's insecurity, then that woman must need to know that she is marrying a guy who is not man enough to man up to his responsibilities.
Wow.
And that is something but because we love them and we want them, we overlook that red flag.
Right.
If you can forsake your son or your daughter for another person, you are not the kind of person that need to be married to anybody.
I like that.
My opinion, take it, leave it. Children are important. They deserve their parents, and they deserve to have you in their lives.
Exactly. Now, I want to get into the front cover of the book, because I know on the front cover, it looks like, of course, like the Brady Bunch.
Yes.
But specifically, you have a black family on one side and a white family on the other. Now, in terms of, just want to make sure that we clarify with people, that's not what he meant by the making of a blended family in terms of like race. It's the whole dynamic that we've been talking about.
Yes.
In that regard. So, but can you talk about why you specifically chose like this particular outlook of the cover, and then how do you deal with the blended families when there are two races and or two ethnic cultures involved?
First of all, how did I choose the cover? I chose the cover because it looks like the Brady Bunch, and I wanted to send the message that it was that kind of family, the Brady Bunch.
Right.
My graphic designer actually hooked up the different cultures and
Right.
families there. When it comes to different cultures and blended races, that is, at this moment, I'm researching that for my new book. But I can truly say that if you are an American and you marry somebody from Jamaica, different culture, or British, you have to find out. That's a whole nother dynamic there, because some countries, men are dominant, and then when you come in America where you have a lot of liberal women kind of doing their thing, that may not mix real well with an African brother, And I'm not saying that, again, I'm researching, so I'm really not as versed to talk about that today as I am about blended families.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I do know that is something that needs to be talked about, because I know.
Absolutely.
Well, we can kind of delve away from that, but still kind of, I guess, keep with that in a way. With not, you don't have to go too much in depth. Let's break that down then in terms of, because really, a family is a culture, no matter if basically like a culture within a culture, if you know what I'm saying. So, like I know, you and your mate can be of the same race and same ethnicity, but because you were raised in the way you were raised in your home can be like part of your, I guess, household culture.
Absolutely.
So how do you determine? I know there's couples out there that are having troubles in terms of like who handles what responsibilities in that regard, such as who like pays the bills, or who pays which bill, I should say, or who handles the cleaning or cooking responsibilities. How do you and Mama specifically, how do you break down in terms of, or how do you communicate who does what responsibility and what you're responsible for?
Well, there's two ways to approach that. The first way to approach it is before you get married, you discuss all of this in premarital counseling. That's the best way, so that you'll know who's cooking what, who's paying what. Is it going to be a separate account or two different accounts? Are you going to pool your money together? You're not going to pool your money together. If both parties are working, are you sharing in the housing responsibility, or is if the wife is a homemaker and the husband is working, is she cooking dinner? I mean, there's a variety of things that you got to talk through, and that is based upon individual couples how they work best. Because in my family, I do 95% of the cooking because my wife doesn't like to cook. I love to cook. You know, I like to cook, and I cook pretty well. So
He's good at it, y'all. I gotta say it
yeah.
myself.
So I enjoy cooking. So if I'm waiting on my wife to cook a meal, that may not be coming anytime soon. But that doesn't mean that that's everybody's marriage or everybody's way of doing things. That's just how we operate in our house.
Okay. Now I noticed a lot of stuff or a lot of things. One thing specifically that doesn't get talked about, but I know our church actually talks about it because I know it's part of part of marriage and helping to keep marriage together. Why is it that you feel, or do you feel? Actually, it's more of a question on my part. I don't feel a lot of churches really delve into the subject of sex with their marital partner. Is there a particular reason why you feel that way, or not? I'm sorry, you don't feel that way, but is there a particular reason why it seems that way? That a lot of people don't maybe talk about that, or is that something that they think should be handled more so in private?
Well, I can't speak for how they feel. I do think that sex is still a taboo subject from the church perspective, even though everybody's doing it. And none of us get here without it. And it's all through the Bible, sexuality. I just think it's a subject that makes us all uncomfortable.
Right.
To have. And so I oftentimes talk about it that women need security, men need sex. Men need sex like fish need water.
Right.
And so can a fish live without water? No. A marriage can't survive without a man making love to his wife. I mean, that's how he feels loved. A woman feels loved by a man taking care of his responsibility and making her feel secure. So those things need to be talked about. But that's not a blended family issue. That's a human issue.
Yeah.
And so it's something that should be really discussed in premarital counseling.
Right. And I mean, the only reason why I did bring that up is because I know that's one of the reasons why marriages are being torn apart, and then hence people end up having to make a blended family.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely wanted to make sure, that I wanted to ask that question in regards to that. And the other thing is finances. And, what are some things or some pointers that you think you can give people or marriage couples or couples in general about how to handle their finances when it comes to marriage?
Well, one of the things is that, you have to get a budget, and you have to talk about where the money is going. When it comes to marriages, when you have two people working, sometimes when they receive their paycheck, and they feel like it's their paycheck, it makes it very difficult for a family to function. In this day and time, you almost need 2, 3, 4 incomes to make a marriage work,
Right.
And so you need somebody that understands that they are your life partner and your helper. When God made Eve for Adam, he says, I'm going to make you a helpmeet, not a separate meat,
Right.
And so you need somebody to walk with you and strengthen you where you're weak in what areas. And sometimes finances, you got to find out between the two of you all who could save better, who could budget better, and work with your spouse to do that, and not because if you work separately, it's going to ultimately hurt the family. You got to work together to make that happen.
Now, is it okay for a couple to have strictly 2 separate bank accounts, or should they have at least 2 separate bank accounts for themselves and then maybe a joint account to handle like responsibilities such as the bills and maybe the mortgage and stuff like that?
Well, again, it's no one way to do it. It's what works for your family. Here's what I do know: if you got one bank account, one of the greater ways to do it is to have a money set aside I think in an account for the family, and then everybody get an allowance. And if they spend their allowance the way they want, but they can't dip back into the operation fund of a house,
Gotcha.
that works well with me.
Gotcha. So once again, y'all, what we were going to do, of course, we got some bills to pay. But again, before we go on break, download the app, WJHM102jams.com, on your Android phone if you have an Android. Again, if you have an Apple phone, you are out of luck. So definitely you got to go through your web browser. But again, we will be right back with Pastor Jerry Q. Parries on WJHM102jams.com. We'll be back in just a minute, y'all. Peace. I didn't mean to throw you a curve like that, but I just know this part of marriage.
No, it's what it is. I mean, that's
His concept's very interesting. My wife and I, actually, we're both recaptures. We both been married before. And so we both decided that money could hurt both of our relationships. So we both do keep our money separate, and we have a joint account to cover any needs for Tiberius. I cover house
mm-hmm.
and everything to do with the home itself. I own the house before that, so
Right.
it's mine. So I own the house and the stuff before. She covers food and medical. I cover everything else. And so it's a unique environment. And how can you live like that? I'm like, well, I'm really good at saving. She's really good at enjoying experiences. She comes up with all the fun stuff and all the things that are things to do. I come up with all the material things it takes to save. And you can't put two of them and share the same envelope.
Right.
Because the fun stuff will go all out and there won't be any money to save.
Right.
So how we approached it was she loves her new kids on the block, she loves her vacation, she loves her stuff. She says, I will never tell you how to spend your money or what to do with the money that you earn.
Right.
All I ask is the same respect. And it's worked out so far for 11 years.
Yeah, it's a different for different families. Right.
Yeah, I always wondered that because all I've ever been taught was in regards to that was, oh no, you have to have, an account together. Oh no, it's not wise to have two separate accounts only, or, I don't want to say that, but the way I really want to say it is that I've always been told like it's okay to have two separate accounts, but you should always have an account together. I've been told that by almost everybody that
0373.
I've gotten marital advice from. Always get this. Make sure you have this. And
Yeah. Well, it's what works for your particular friend.
right.
You have any more on this?
I believe
We got
I do.
another big segment, so
Okay.
How much longer we got?
try to get that number for you. We evolved it a little bit, so I'm fixing it.
Okay.
We got family crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, I definitely want to talk about that. Yeah, absolutely.
50, 40. Okay, you've got 12 minutes.
12 minutes? Oh,
Okay.
yeah, we'll meet that.
So this is your ending segment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, depending on how this goes,
Mm-hmm.
how are you guys doing?
Yeah,
Good.
I'm
You
good.
guys doing all right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. This is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know it's like I'm actually trying to not involve myself too much.
Mhm.
That's why I'm trying to play my phone and so forth. But if I get you into it, I'll try to give you hints and instructions. I'd rather you do what you're doing is perfect.
Right.
Decide when you get here to the end
Mm-hmm.
whether or not you want to roll into another Tuesday show.
Okay.
It's good enough to do so.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you've got the time, I would roll right into it and do a Tuesday show if you can. If not, cut up and say, we'd love to have you back.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably have to do that.
Maybe
Yeah.
in the future we can get you back. And act like you don't know if you're back. But act like you're not sure.
Right.
And that gives you time. So we would really like. Would that be all right? It would be an honor if we could get you to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so forth. And then he'll roll into it and so forth.
Yeah.
So figure out that play.
No, I'm good. Yeah, we'll have to come back
Because
another
I
time.
think you've
Yeah.
got a lot of great subjects in here.
Absolutely.
Some people need to know about.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I'm thinking the guy from DNA, he needs a copy of that book. He definitely needs a copy of that book. He's having a lot of issues with his ex-wife and how they do with family and new girlfriends. A lot of interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
And I really see you really nailed a lot of stuff down. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
12 minutes.
Yeah. Recap.
When you recap,
Right.
that's what makes up. And then cue that start up. Yeah, you're doing real good. I'm loving the content. You guys are really feeding off each other, and that's really makes a good show.
Absolutely.
That's the reason why I'm trying to say that. When you got something that good, you don't want to mess with it. You don't want to. You ready?
Yep.
In 5, 4.
And we're back again. Thank you all for staying tuned to listen to Confessions with Brian T. Bethea on WJHM102jams.com. Again, just want to reiterate, download the app if you have an Android. Download the app. Go to WJHM102jams.com and on your Play Store and download the app from there. And again, sorry for all my iPhone users. This is the one time where Android users get to be bougie. You know what I'm saying? And say, you have to go use your web browser. You cannot use your Play Store. So definitely you want to go ahead and make sure that you do that. And if you want to download the app, if you have an iPhone, listen, go to Apple or whoever is in charge of iPhone and tell them, look, do what you have to do to get us on the app or what have you. So we're back right now with Pastor Jerry Q. Parries, who is, again, the author of The Making of a Blended Family. I suggest you get a copy of this man's book. He's also the pastor, again, of Christian Family Worship Center. Of course, if you want to follow us online, go to cfwcorlando.com. You can also find that on Instagram at the same at CFWC Orlando as well on Instagram. Now, getting back to the making of the blended family, let's talk about family crisis. You know, how do you handle when there's like a family emergency or family crisis, in any situation, particularly if a kid has to go to the hospital or
that's good. That's good. Family crisis are again blended families. You got to have you have to be secure, and it's very important that you pick the right person to join in a blended family with. Mm-hmm. We had an incident where my son was in London and he had gotten sick. Of course, at first when he's gotten sick over in London, England, he's in school. Mm-hmm. Of course, guess who he wants to see? His mother and his father. Mm-hmm. Because he doesn't know what's going on. He's anxious about what's happening, and so we didn't have enough money for all of us to fly over instantly to London, England. So what do you do? Right. So my wife's son is in need of her. So I can say to my wife, you can't go. I'm not going. You're not going. What how crazy is that? Her son is over there in the hospital. So my wife flew over, and then her ex-husband flew over to be with their son. And you have to be secure enough to allow that to happen. And your wife and husband, or whoever that may be, have to be honest enough, person of integrity, to allow that to happen, so that they can attend to their child. So when he got back to Cleveland, and they went to take him to the hospital because they brought him back, and make a long story short, he was in getting some work done, in the surgery. And so after surgery was over, we're all sitting out in the waiting room, waiting for the answer. I'm there to support my wife. His father's there to support his son. His father's wife is there to support her husband. So all four of us are there. Right. So, but here's the issue. This is interesting. The doctor comes out and says, "Hey, only if you want to go back to scene, he didn't say the biological parent. The parents is the people that can go back. Right. Was my son, her son, his son, and but the biological parents stood up, and they went back together, and so I'm sitting out in the waiting room with his wife his wife now, and of course we all have, because we've built this relationship. Right. We have this relationship. But my point is, during crisis, the child wants to see his parents, and you can't be out in the waiting room arguing back and forth. You ain't going back there with him. You ain't. You got to put all of that aside, even at funerals.
Right.
Aunt was passing. Aunt was passing, and my wife's ex-husband, my children's father, had lived above her aunt for over 8 years. And when she passed, he has a relationship with this woman. You know, of course he's going to come to the funeral. Of course he's going to come. And I have to give them room as a family to grieve their aunt, but be there as support. And so it's a lot of, you got to be secure when you are in a blended family. You cannot be insecure. You got to be secure and support the children through those traumas and not trip out or give a lot of drama. Nobody needs drama at a funeral or at a hospital when somebody is terribly ill. You have to put on your best behavior. And so I teach in the book how to go through crisis and when to back up and how to step forward and all of that good stuff.
Now, is there any time where a situation may arise where the bonus parent can have a say so in terms of like a crisis like that? You know, in case that the child is in the hospital or needs, you know, specific medical care. Do you think there's ever a situation where it's like okay for not necessarily for a decision to be made, but in case, you know, some type of, you know, well, in case a decision needs to be made, or, you know, what is the best avenue for care for that particular child? You know, should they be consulted in that regard as well?
Well, if the relationship have been built from the beginning, then it will be
right.
some conversation. I wasn't ignored. In fact, after he went back and saw the child, he came out and came directly to me, his father, and said, "Hey, it's your turn to go back and visit." You know, so he came and got me.
Wow.
So he wanted to make sure that I felt a part of the process. Yes, if you build the relationship, takes time. This is not overnight. If you build that relationship, people would want to know what's your thought on it, and they will value that opinion. But if you are an egghead, I would want to say something else. But if you are an egghead,
right.
then of course you're not going to have any say so,
right.
because nobody's going to want to listen to what you have to say, because they will see it out of drama and not out of concern.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, in regards for divorce, and God forbid anybody listening right now, God forbid unless you are in a situation where you feel like your life is in danger, you know, if there's any way for you to save your marriage, you know, please try to find a way to do so.
Please do. Please do.
But in case there is no other way out of it, how is a parent? What's the best way you feel like a parent should explain to their child? Look, your mother or your father or the other parent is, you know, you're getting a divorce. What's the best way to explain that to a child?
That is a devastating thing. Please, those that are listening, please don't take that lightly. I think that you have to be honest with the child, that what is going on. And I would suggest that you seek counseling with that child. My story, I had a son, my youngest son, was in school. He was getting A's and B's. Well, he was like in second, third grade. He was getting S's and E's, all S's and E's. And my wife and I got a divorce, and he moved to Memphis. And I went to Memphis and went to check on him at school because he was not having good days at school. And I looked at his report card, and he got straight F's for the next 3 quarters. Now, if you're not, I wasn't smart enough now that I needed to get him counseling immediately. You know, if you're not in tune to what's going on, first thing, you know, some of us want to do is pull out a belt. You know,
right. He
He doesn't need a belt. He needs counseling. He is traumatized from the divorce of what happened to his family. And while other kids are in there trying to study and read, his mind is in that he just lost his father, he just lost his mother, he just lost his home, he just lost his security. The whole bottom of his life just fell out, and that child is there suffering through this horrible divorce, and you're going on picking up a new mate and acting like it's his fault that he's going through this drama. And so those crises and those things, you got to, when you're going through a divorce with your children, I believe that constantly needs to be set up immediately so that they can be able to express themselves of what they are going through, because ultimately I don't think that my son ever poured out as well as he could have,
Right.
because I did not get him the help necessary during a trauma situation. And the effects of that, to me, still lingers today.
Okay. And I want to add to that, because I know there was advice that you specifically gave me in terms of when I started dating my girlfriend or what have you, is not to introduce my son
Oh,
to
yes.
her until I felt like, she was going to be my one. And I remember you gave me a specific time frame, which I believe was it 3 to 6 months or something like that in that regard?
Well, probably over a year, because I'm an advocate for a year to and let me, if I may speak on that.
Yeah.
That when you come out of divorce and you meet somebody else, new Johnny, it is not wise to take your girlfriend or boyfriend around your children. It is, in fact, in my opinion, that you should, first of all, again, like we talked about in last week's program, that you need to wait at least a year to 2 years before you seriously think about getting married again.
Right.
If you wait 2 to 3 years to make sure that you are going to get married again, then you do not introduce your children to people until you know that that is the person that you want to marry. Because children trust and they get attached to people, and once they get attached to those people and you break off with them again, they go through another loss. They go through, you date somebody, and you know how people, when they first come in your life, they want to make an impression on your kids. They go
Right.
get them ice cream, and they take them to the park, and they Mr. this and Mr. that. Then y'all fall out, and then that kid is waiting on that person to come to pick up, to have some more fun with, and they're no longer in their lives. Their heart is broken again.
Right.
And so you do not involve your kids in your marital situations after a divorce until you know that person is going to be permanently into your life. Then you introduce them from that point on. My opinion.
Well, I know that's very important for those people that are listening. So again, we are going to have more. We'll be right back with Pastor Jerry Q. Parries on WJHM 102jams.com. Peace.
Yep, that's a tough one because people like to.
Important for those people that are listening. So again, we are going to have more. We'll be right back with Pastor Jerry Q. Parries on WJHM 102jams.com. Peace.
Thanks for
Over
watching.
40 years, Lighthouse City.
Continue watching. We got another segment coming in just a second.
You got to link over. My people can't see
Yeah.
you when you talk.
I'm sorry, y'all. We got another section in just a moment, so stay tuned, and hope you are enjoying yourselves. And please, and by all means, please share the video as well. Make this go out there, make this get out there. It's very important that we talk about this. And listen, help me go viral, help us go viral here. We need to talk about this. We need to make sure that this book gets on the New York Times bestseller list also, you know what I'm saying? So definitely make sure that gets on. And for people watching on my video, make sure that this gets on the New York Times bestseller list. I know that they say 50% of the marriages now, first time, and now second time marriages are now at 50% rate of divorce. So
Actually higher.
it's higher now?
Yeah, it's higher. Second divorces are higher.
I did hear that now. Yeah, that's right. Second divorces are now higher. So definitely get this book. And, hopefully if you make this go viral. And also, we are, again, if you have an Android, definitely download the app. I'm going to stress this. Download the app, WJHM102jams.com. That's jams with a Z. If you have an Android, you can download it. And, of course, you can listen to all of our shows. Don't just type in 102 Jams, and every 102 Jams radio station will come up. You have to type in WJHM102jams.com, and you can listen to all of my past episodes as well as all of our other shows as well. And plus, I need sponsors. So if any of y'all are business owners, let's just put it out there. I need sponsors right now. So if you are a business owner, we are definitely, you can get in touch with me, Brian T. Bethea Confessions on Facebook as well. And of course, you can also contact the radio station as well, speak to the program owner, the station owner, which is Joseph Boy as well. See how you can be a sponsor for my particular show. And we get enough sponsors, guess what? I get to do this full time, and we get to bring back guests such as Pastor Jerry Q. Parries as well as any other special guests. And, thank y'all for tuning in. Just stay tuned. We're going to recap everything. And thank y'all for watching. Of course, share this video. Make this go viral. Make all the videos go viral so that we can help save some marriages and help keep things in perspective.
You know, we should talk about too, grandparents.
Yes, absolutely.
That's huge.
It's a long one, or should I wait for the show? We've got 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
I'll touch on it, but then I will come back whenever.
We should bring you back in a couple of weeks. Don't make it right away, make it a couple of weeks.
Right.
Hey, family, good to see y'all.
So 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Don't forget, recap, so hit the individual subjects. Thank you, and reset the next.
Absolutely.
This one's important to catch on time.
Yes.
Because
That's it.
That's it. We're
Right.
on time.
That's it.
Okay?
Yep.
I'm going to bring it out nice and wide so you can see all of it. Okay? And when I start making things, start watching the green line, okay?
Yep.
You're doing really good.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you good at this, B.
I'm doing my best, Doc. Doing my best.
Let me go so my people can see.
You ready?
Yep.
In 5, 4, 3.
And we're back, y'all. Again, you're listening to Confessions with Brian T. Bethea on WJHM102jams.com. Just a brief recap that we've been talking about the making of a blended family by author Pastor Jerry Q. Parries, who again is also the pastor of Christian Family Worship Center. I know you wanted to add something briefly real quick in regards to grandparents. Can you touch on that for just a second?
Yeah, grandparents. I write in the book that when you blend a family together, you agree to take on everything attached to that person, children, all of the above. However, grandparents do not have to take on that responsibility.
Right.
Because grandparents did not ask for you to choose whoever you chose.
Right.
So they have a right, if you got 5 or 6 different children from different families or whatever, 3 or 4, they have a right to go to their grandchild only.
Right.
And do for that grandchild.
Right.
Without having to feel the pressure that if they can't take their grandchild, they have to take all the grandchildren. And some people try to use their grandchildren as a pawn
Right.
to say, if you don't buy for one, you buy for one, you got to buy for all.
Right.
That is not the way that should go. Grandparents have a choice. They have a choice about their own biological grandchildren. So they have a choice about their bonus children. So I just want you to know, and we'll talk more about that if we ever get a chance to do so, about the responsibility and for grandparents. Do not hold your children from your grandparents. That's a cruel thing. That's a cruel thing to do, simply because you want to manipulate the situation. If you don't pay, then they can't come and see you. Don't do that. That's not right.
And there's a situation like that in the book. That's
Yes,
why
it
you got to
is.
read the book. So
Read
definitely.
the book. And by the way, Brian Bethea, you do an incredible job
thank you, sir.
on your radio station. And I am telling you, I'm very proud of this young man and very proud of what he's doing. And I'm very happy that he invited me. I loved it. This has been awesome. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what we are going to do, we are going to bring him back. We're going to ask you if you come back, and because we was really just getting started. It's probably going to be about a 4-parter, 4 or 5-parter. So Can you give out, again, your social media?
Yeah, you can reach me at my email at Pastor Jerry Q Parries, Parries @gmail.com. Or for our church website, you can go to cfwcorlando.com. This book is available at Zulon Press, or you can email me, come to the church website. But you is at Zulon Press, or you can get it at Amazon. Amazon is a great place also to pick it up.
And again, you can follow me as well on Instagram, the Phoenix 516 at Instagram, as well as Brian T. Bethea Confessions on Facebook. And of course, we also have Writer's Block every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at TNT Cafe. So again, thank y'all for listening to WJHM102jams.com. This is Confessions with Brian T. Bethea. We will see you again next week, y'all. Peace.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Appreciate you. Appreciate your watching. Hope that it was a blessing to you. Have a great day.
Bethea, we will see you again next week, y'all. With Brian T. Bethea, we will see you again next week, y'all. Peace.
Are you frustrated with your...
Please share this video, all 3 videos that I took today. Please share, and share again. You know, make this stuff go viral. People need this information. You know, and again, get this book, The Making of a Blended Family, Pastor Jerry Q. Parries. Again, this is not just about the making of a blended family with different races or ethnicities. This is also in regards for if either one or both parents have children from a previous relationship. That's a blended family. And you're entering a family again. ZulonBooks.com to get the book. Zulon Press. Zulon Press to get the book. Of course, Amazon.com, but he prefers Zulon Press to get the book. I got the information all right there. Get that right there. You know what I'm saying? Y'all got it. Good. And of course, you can always come to the greatest church this side of heaven, Christian Family Worship Center. Of course, you can right here in Florida, Central Florida. And of course, you can follow us online at Instagram as CFWC Orlando on Instagram, as well as that is the same name for the website, CFWCOrlando.com as well. Thank y'all for watching.